Alright, so let's get started. So we're going to continue talking about this week with having a positive attitude, and we're going to run through it real quick. We got a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time. So let's go ahead and bounce through. And what we want to make sure that we cover here is the 4 takeaways that you ought to get as a Manual College cross-country track and field athlete. How and why you should have a positive attitude each and every day. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to define it. And we're going to define it because we want to make sure we have a clear definition of it. We're going to give examples of it, and then we're going to spend a lot of time on application because I think that's the most important part. You can define it and you can give examples, but if you can't apply it to your life, then we're missing the point. And then we're going to get the results. So these 2 things, we're going to focus a lot of time on these 2 things here. Let's continue. Alright, so why define a positive attitude? Well, we're going to define a positive attitude is because we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay? If your definition and our definition of positive attitude doesn't line up, then we're missing something. Then we're missing the point. We're missing the point here. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is why we're going to define it is we want clarification. We want to make sure that we're both clear on what the definition is, so that we can hold you accountable to the definition. Alright, because if your definition and our definition doesn't match up, then we can't hold each other accountable. You can't hold us accountable, and you can't hold yourself accountable, and you can't hold each other accountable. So that's why we want to make sure that we define it. Okay? And so, Manual College cross-country track and field defines having a positive attitude as your choice to make the best out of every situation that is outside and inside your control. Alright, so what's the most important thing here? The most important phrase out of this sentence is your choice. Alright? This is, you have a choice here. Alright? And why do you have a choice? Why do you want to make the best out of every situation? Because, so that you can learn. Okay? So if you're in this situation and you choose to have a positive attitude, no matter what it is, because a lot of times these are outside of our control, we can't control them. So if you choose to have a positive attitude, you're going to learn from it. You're going to have an open mindset. You're going to be able to learn. You're going to be able to grow. You're going to be able to help the people around you. And you're going to be able to encourage the people who are in that same situation with you. Y'all can go through and y'all can walk through it together, and y'all will have a lot better success. Because it doesn't really matter, because you can have a positive attitude and you're going to succeed, and you're going to have a positive attitude and you're going to fail. But as long as you have a positive attitude and you think about it, you're going to be able to learn, grow, and encourage along the way. Alright, so now we're going to jump into some examples here. Alright, and so the first example we're going to look into is the book of Job. Alright, I don't have time to go through the whole story here, but we're going to just bounce through it real quick. One of the great things that Job talks about is endurance. Alright, endurance. He has spiritual endurance and he has attitude endurance. Okay, because I would encourage you to go back and look at the story, but he goes through some heavy stuff. I mean, the devil just hits him and hits him and hits him and hits him and hits him. But yet he stays faithful. He has that endurance. He maintains his faith, and he maintains a great attitude through it all. Okay? So that's one example. The next example we're going to look at is something that we happened this week. Alright? We had a weather dilemma this weekend. Monday, it was pouring down rain. Had a long run. Couldn't really do it. Couldn't hold practice together. Had to kind of do it separate. And then Tuesday it was sunny. Then yesterday it was tornadoes, hailing. It was crazy. All right, so we had to do it. Move the workout from the track to the field, and y'all did a great job. There were so many different circumstances that went wrong that were outside of y'all control, but y'all brought a good attitude to 6 o'clock in the morning to the soccer fields, and y'all did a great job. So that's awesome. So as we all go through, what are 2 things that are inside of your control that you can control? Your what? Your attitude and your work ethic. Those are 2 things that we ask you to do each and every day. Alright, so now we're going to work on application. Because application is super important here. And this is one of the things I want to focus on here. So we're going to focus on 3 things. The first thing we're going to talk about is planning. Okay, you got to learn how to plan. Alright, the second thing we're going to talk about is your inner thoughts versus your outward thoughts. Because that's just so important when you talk about your inner self controls what people see. And then we're going to talk about how to change negative thoughts to positive, okay? So let's jump right into it. Plan to be positive. Alright, go down. So before planning, planning starts at planning before the situation occurs. Okay, you got to recognize the situation. You got to have something in place before it occurs. So we got to plan. And people think, why do you plan? Like, plan to have a positive attitude? Well, I guarantee you, it'll make a difference if you do that. And I'm going to show you why. So we need to identify those areas that make you negative or stressful. All right. So everybody has their own situations that if you know you're in, you're just like, oh my gosh. It can turn a good day to a bad day in a heartbeat. All right. Like, you know those situations. Okay. Well, we got to plan for it. And once you identify those areas, then you can develop the content that you want your inner coach to say to you next time you're in that situation. All right. So we're going to talk. So back up real quick. So we're going to look at the content. So when you identify the situation and you say, okay, next time I'm in this situation, you're going to have stuff that says, no, I already developed this content that when I'm in this situation, I'm going to be able to change my thinking to have a better attitude about it. Okay. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is our inner versus outward thoughts, and this is very important because we have two different thoughts. Okay. You have your inner. This is the little voice in your head. Everybody has a little voice in their head. Some may have a couple of them. I hope not. But everybody's got one inner voice in their head. Okay, and that's the only voice that you and only you can hear. Okay, and so it is. Then you have the outward. This is the voice that you're hearing from me right now. That is my outward voice. All right, and so we're going to look at a video.
That it be that your private voice can either help you out or break you down. But it's the only voice that's with you until your death. I want you to put yourself in this situation. You're in a game. Your whole student body is watching you. Things are going bad for you. Things are going bad for your team. What if, in that moment, the thoughts that you were thinking scrolled across the bottom of the scoreboard for everyone in the gym to see? How would that make you feel? The interesting thing about this is when we think
Keep going quick.
negatively, not only are we competing against our opponent, who else are we competing against? Ourselves. So we have to
So y'all see that? So when you have your inner
coach.
thoughts here, when you have negative thoughts, when you're in a situation and you get and this happens and negative things starts happening and you don't have control of your inner thoughts, do you see how not only does that affect yourself, that affects the people around you? And it's so true, and that's why we want to talk about application here and the importance of your inner versus your outward thoughts, of knowing that. It's because when that happens, you can control that and therefore have a better attitude about it at the end. All right, so replacing the negative with the positive. So now you got to know how to get rid of that negative thought when it comes to your mind, because there's so many instances in a race that you can have negative thoughts. I mean, you got from the 100 to the 10K, there's so many different things that can go wrong in that amount of time. So we got to know how to use it to replace those negative thoughts. So the first thing is acknowledging the thought. Okay? Acknowledge that you have a negative thought in your head. And don't judge yourself. That's one thing that we don't want you to do, is don't judge yourself like, oh, daggone, I have another negative thought. No, we don't need to do that, because then you're just creating more stress on your body. The one thing you want to do is just acknowledge it. All right, I got a negative thought. All right, second thing we need to do is we need to interrupt it. To interrupt it, you got to stop it. Okay, interrupt means stop. Stop that thought from progressing into your brain even more. Okay, and then we got to replace it. So as soon as you acknowledge it, you stop it, then you got to replace it with something positive. Okay, so something that you're doing better. All right, let's keep going. And so, what is the result? What is the result when you put all these together and you start developing a better a positive attitude over different situations? Because if it's raining outside and we got workouts, like what does that mean? Like what is the result of that? And I think it is. It's like when you have a positive attitude about things that you can't control, you become the person people around you want to be around. All right, I think that's so important. And I think as you as a person can start applying this stuff to your life, you're gonna become that person that people want to be around. You're gonna have that person of influence. You're gonna have that drive that people want to be around. And when each and every one of you has that, man, this whole team is going to change. Our whole team culture is going to change, and we're going to see better results. We're going to see better performances. We're going to see better results on the track. Okay? And so, to recap, one of the things we talked about is your definition, okay? It's your choice to make the best out of every situation, okay? That is outside and inside your control. Second thing, we looked at 2 examples. Look at Job and good versus bad weather. The attitude and work ethic is the most important thing here, okay? Those are 2 things that you can control in every situation. The third thing, we talked about application. All right, we want to plan your inner versus outward thoughts and then replacing the negative with the positive and then the result, okay? Be the person people around you want to be around, okay? And so I want to leave you with this is go out and take it. Use this, what you learned here, have a positive attitude, and go and take that and help the people around you. Encourage the people in your pod, in your dorm, and become a better person to the people around you, all right?